So welcome back to NVC Dudes. I'm James.
Hey, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Good to see you, James.
Hey, good to see you. Hey, we were talking about NVC, nonviolent communication, and I get asked often, what is this nonviolent stuff? I'm
Right.
not violent. I mean, what kind of crap is that? You know?
I don't need that. I'm not a violent person.
Yeah. So what's your take on this violence
You
part
know,
of nonviolent communication?
yeah, it's funny that you say that because I've actually had a lot of people ask me that question, like, is this some sort of like a recovery group for people with really bad tempers to get violent? And I'm like, oh no. So now there's judgment on me about what this is. And that's an interesting way interesting conversation that comes up after that. But yeah, nonviolent communication, it's and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think because it was developed sort of back in the 70s, there was sort of this connection with Gandhi's nonviolence and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's attached to that. But I know recently there's been kind of a move to change it a little bit, so it's more like I've heard compassionate communication or things like that, where we're trying to get away from the word violence because it seems to be a trigger word.
It's trigger a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah. And can I add to that?
please, yeah,
Yeah. And when you were saying, is this some kind of recovery group for violence? I wanted to. Part of me wanted to say, yeah, our culture is really violent,
right,
or at least the culture that I grew up in, um, and we can be violent to ourselves when we're judging ourselves,
right,
and so, and also, if I'm judging you or blaming you or criticizing you, I'm being violent to you. So we're using that term in terms of like to signify emotional hurt, emotional violence, where I might, choose strategies to meet my needs at the expense of yours. That's one form of violence.
yeah,
Another form of violence is choosing to meet your needs at the expense of my needs. It's a different flavor of violence.
right.
And I can do violence on myself also. Like if I choose to eat a pound of chocolate right before bed, it'll meet those needs for comfort and a little bit of nutrition, and my need for rest and well-being is totally out the window. So I could, be violent towards myself.
Yeah, and like you said, the self-judgment. I mean, we something we often say is, "Oh, I beat myself up about this," and it really is true. Like we are really emotionally beating ourselves up sometimes when we have those inner judgments, and they stick with us, and they're constantly uh, chewing away at us. And I think sometimes the method of nonviolent communication is to really just be aware of that. Like there's an awareness factor, right? And then we decide or we listen to, well, what are the feelings I'm having now, and then what needs are not being met or being met if it's a good thing. But that's kind of like how we check in with ourselves to see what kind of violent state we're in at the moment and whether or not we're going to project that onto other people, right? And,
Yeah. And I love quoting Marshall around that.
and
He said, every judgment is a tragic expression of an unmet need.
yeah,
So as we're judging, there's some violence happening, and just tapping into the judgment. If we can translate that into the needs that are alive, then we can go beyond the judgment into what's really true, which is, hey, there's a need that's not, or a value that's not getting its attention right now.
yeah, and we react sort of I don't know, almost an evolutionary sense, right? These are reactions to our safety sometimes, like wanting to, for whatever reason, we're fearful, and we react not necessarily physically violent, but sometimes verbally violent to keep ourselves safe in some way.
Yeah, and like to I want to echo back to what you said. Marshall Rosenberg wanted to use that term nonviolent to have synergy with the social justice movement of the '60s and
Right.
'70s. Along with Gandhi and Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
So that's the power I think that NVC has to contribute to social justice right now. I think the time is right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now is absolutely a great time. I mean, we have a really difficult time talking to each other, connecting with each other. There's a lot of tribalism, a lot of other people, right, that we place judgments on. And yeah, I mean, can you imagine a world where everybody is checking in with themselves where they're at before they decide to go and connect with somebody? Like if they're really honest with what's going on with them and not projecting all of their issues on other people, I think that world would be amazing. Yeah.
Yep, I want to live in that world. Stay tuned for the next episode of NVC Dudes.
That's right.